This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everybody. This is Keith Angle, and you're watching TGI Sports Talk Sunday stream of consciousness. Hope everybody's doing well, staying cool as this country seems to be aflame here. My gosh. Heat index again. Alan, I know if you show up here today, you're going to laugh that I'm even complaining. Heat index is well over 100, like 5 days in a row here. And no relief today. So I hope you guys are all doing well. We got a show today. Today we'll have Jim Biringer on. Oh, by the way, thank you. You're watching us live. Everybody who's seeing us live now is on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or one of those outlets. You'll see us again shown live on, plausibly live for the first time anyway, on Roku at noontime today. And also, be looking out for the college football huddle on Wednesday. Lots to talk about this Wednesday. We might get into a little bit today, but I doubt it. Today we'll have Jim Biringer on here in just a second, as I see he's popped in the room already, for a quick chat. I know he's was trying to get into vacation mode, he told me, but had some things he certainly wanted to chat about today. A blockbuster trade yesterday. We'll have Mark Mancini on later on, talk about his all-star game experience and some other Major League Baseball topics. And we'll get into the world of baseball a lot today and maybe a little bit of NFL, but we'll see how we go. So good morning to those who are already here. Alan's here. Good morning. And it is 110 index in Oklahoma. So I risked when I said it was how hot it was here. You would say, so what? So anyway, Alan, I feel for you for sure, because we only get it for short periods of time. You get it consistently. So anyway, without further ado, because I know Jim wants to be in vacation mode, let's get Jim Biringer from FullPressHockey.com and a last word on hockey on the Mad Radio Network. Good morning, Jim. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? I'm doing good. Thanks.
I know you had some plans. They're trying to get some plans made, and then lots of stuff started happening in your world, especially your professional world, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it was crazy because, everybody was wondering, like, as we talked last week, when's the news about Kadri going to drop? When's Klingberg going to drop? Like, and then like the news came out, Matthew Tkachuk wants out. And it was, it's like, okay, when's this going to happen? His arbitration hearing gets set up, and he's like, when's the next, when's it going to happen? Trade's coming. And then like everything happened Friday afternoon. And good morning, Amanda. Yes, nice and early today.
Yes, good morning, Amanda. Good to have you with us. Good morning, Bob. Bob, our number one, probably more than me, Patriot fan. So good to have you with us, Bob. We'll be talking some hockey with Jim for a little bit. And obviously, Jim, I guess there's no place else to start but the blockbuster trade between the Flames and the Panthers exchanging 100-point scorers. This is not a usual thing in the NHL that I can remember. I'm sure that there's been other instances, but this is a big trade no matter how you cut it.
Yeah, it's a huge trade. I mean, this thing went down late. I'm talking late Friday night, probably when a lot of people were sleeping, like 11:20, 11:30-ish. It happened. They announced that the Flames were trading Matthew Tkachuk to Florida, and then when you saw the haul that included Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar, some conditional first-round picks in 2025, I'm like, oh, my God. So, and then immediately the release was that he signed an 8-year deal. So basically this was a sign and trade that, he was going to only sign with certain teams. And, the Panthers gave up Huberdeau, who, by the way, was having contract talks with the Panthers to be extended and to be a Panther for life. Now, we'll see what happens going forward. But it's interesting because, like, Huberdeau was not happy about the trade, and I don't blame him. But the Flames get two good players to at least extend their run next year in the Western Conference. Now, if they don't do well, you could trade these guys at the deadline. But you replace Johnny Gaudreau with a Jonathan Huberdeau. You have a nice defenseman in Mackenzie Weegar now, and at least the top line is still intact for the Flames. And they have to worry about, but Matthew Tkachuk really forced their hand on where he wants to go, and you're seeing it more and more now that guys are starting to do that. Where they are dictating where they want to go and play now.
When you're not dealing from a position of strength like the Flames weren't, I still think they did pretty well here. I would say we have to see this play out, but I would think they're the winners in this trade, given the situation that they were in, that they had to trade him, and they did pretty well for him having them over a barrel like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they actually did really well, and if this was the haul that the Flames were asking for, then maybe a lot the teams that we thought were in it probably didn't want to give up, players like that, especially, if he wanted to go play in St. Louis where, he was born and where his dad played and everything. So, maybe St. Louis didn't want to give up those assets, and they really don't have a lot of guys that have, that don't have any trade clauses. Huberdeau doesn't really have it. Neither does Weegar. So you have to figure out the players that you can move. And, New Jersey was definitely in on this, but you're not giving up. You're basically almost selling the farm for one player. And, you look at it and you say, I've seen a lot of differences in opinion about, oh, well, these players are only UFA. Yeah, but you know what? If the Flames sign them long term or at least for 4 or 5 years, you know what? They win this trade because I'm sorry, but Bill Zito, Matthew Tkachuk, as much as he's a great player, he's not a generational player. There's only a handful of generational talent. There's one guy in Toronto named Austin Matthews, and then there's another guy in Edmonton named Connor McDavid. Now, Leon Draisaitl is really close to that. Yes, Tkachuk plays with an edge. He can put up the points. Let's see if he do it, because basically, the Panthers told Huberdeau, we're choosing Tkachuk over you. So, there's some motivation there for Huberdeau to have another good season up in Calgary, and I think he will, because I think the Flames still have a good team now.
Yeah, and both these teams are going to be, Stanley Cup contenders next year. It would be very interesting, and Florida's obviously got to improve their playoff performance to get there. But it would be interesting to see these teams match up next year in the Stanley Cup Finals. That'd be a very interesting result of this trade. What else is? Go ahead, Jim.
It's funny because I'm trying to think if it's probably happened in recent time, but the one thing I can remember is that the Devils prior at the 2002 NHL draft, they traded Peter Secor to Anaheim for Jeff Friesen and Oleg Tverdovsky. The two teams met in the Stanley Cup Final in 2003, so it was kind of funny to reference it. But another point of this is, and then maybe it's being made a bigger deal on the other side of the border, but the fact that is the Flames lost 2 American players, 2 American cities. And nothing against Calgary and everything, higher taxes, I think the big thing is I think these guys definitely did want to come home, be closer to families. But the fact of the matter is COVID took a lot on these guys. I think mentality, isolation, the restrictions were different than they were down here. And yeah, if Tkachuk's going to a good Florida Panthers team, I know everybody knocks Mackenzie Weegar for what happened in the playoffs. Guy's still a good defenseman. And I'm still not sold on Florida as the team that they can make a deep run. Look, they still have some learning experience to go through. And if Tkachuk doesn't live up to this $9.5 million that you were going to pay Jonathan Huberdeau with a team that was clicking, I understand you need to make changes because of the performance. But this team was pretty good. Let's see if Tkachuk gives them an edge that they need. But they still got it. They still have some work to do in that division, especially with Tampa.
Oh, definitely, for sure. I mean, they're certainly no sure thing, but it's interesting to see how this changes their dynamic. It's been a whirlwind few weeks, obviously, in the NHL with trades and free agency. Who's still got work to do? Who's got the most work to do in this offseason after this flurry of activity so far?
The Islanders is a team that comes to mind that has work to do. I mean, nobody knows what Luz does, but it's
That's a joke from the Mac and Jack show this morning.
There's they definitely have work to do because they haven't addressed issues offensively. They still need scoring. Does Lou decide to make a trade, make a blockbuster trade as well? No one really knows what he's doing, but he hasn't improved this team. Also on Friday, by the way, Columbus Blue Jackets re-signed Patrick Laine to a 4-year deal, and then they traded Oliver Bjorkstrand to Seattle. And it was funny because after the Laine deal, everybody's like, "Oh, they got work to do." People were saying, one of the guys I do Tuesday thing with Full Press Hockey had said, "Oh, well, on my show I talked about these guys," and I was like, "Oh, well, don't be surprised if Oliver Bjorkstrand gets traded." And sure enough, like 5 minutes later, that's the name that goes to Seattle. I was like, really? Yep. I was like, spot on. One more for the good guys. So yeah, no, Columbus, they definitely definitely looking good this year with Laine and Gaudreau. And of course, Laine is going to want to resign. He's playing with Gaudreau. I mean, that's going to be a deadly combination. Losing a guy like Bjorkstrand is tough. Because I think they saw him as a part of their future, but maybe they can eventually get him back. And, they have some nice center depth there that they can throw in, but Columbus is going to be a tough team. But yeah, the Islanders to me sticks out the most of teams that need to get stuff done. I mean, look, Devils fans, they're like, "Oh, Fitzgerald missed on all these guys." Well, maybe he has a plan that you don't know about. And, does he want to mortgage the future? He wants to make hockey trades. He wants to keep the assets that he has and not diminish what they're building there. So their offseason has been pretty good. But yeah, to me, the biggest team, Carlos's favorite team is the Islanders. Stick out the most because they need to get scoring help, and they haven't really done anything. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
I wouldn't disagree with that. And as far as teams that have really had a busy offseason and maybe they underperformed last year, is there somebody that sticks out as could make a major move this year based on its early results of the offseason?
I mean, Ottawa could definitely improve from what they've done this year. I mean, I like what they've done in the offseason. Again, they don't give out awards for winning the offseason. So,
of course, you got to play games, right?
You got to play games, but they have definitely improved, and they're going to make life. They're going to definitely be a borderline playoff team next year. I wouldn't doubt it for the players that they brought in. I mean, that's the expectation when you bring in Giroux, DeBrincat, the guys like that. You have Talbot. They're going all in to make a playoff run next year. So I like what the early returns are for Ottawa.
Well, I had another question. What about some of the franchises that have been the traditional franchises that have been struggling in recent years, like the Blackhawks and the Red Wings, and now the Canadians. Last year, obviously, they had a good year during the COVID season and went to the Stanley Cup final. But do you see any hope on the horizon for these? Hockey's better when these franchises are good, in my mind. Do you see any hope on the horizon for these traditional powers?
Well, I mean, Chicago's got a ways to go before they see the light at the end of the tunnel with that rebuild going on. Though right now, obviously all eyes are on Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews. But for right now, they're staying in Chicago, and I think they're going to just start the season in Chicago unless like something major happens where they decide, yeah, we want out. Detroit's gotten better. Stevie Y's building it up through the rebuild, but that's what happens when you have years of success and you don't start the rebuild towards the end of your run. Like if these teams decided, okay, like if for Detroit, for instance, yeah, they went back to back, Stanley Cup Finals in 2008 and 2009, but instead of missing the playoffs in 2010 or 2011 and stuff, where they probably should have, they just extended their playoff streak. That's when things they should have started, but instead it got prolonged, and then they took a nosedive, and now they're building up again. Which Steve Yzerman has done so well again with a second franchise as he set the table in Tampa with Montreal. Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes. They're doing things the right way. We'll see now what they do with Slavkovsky. Does he go down? Does he go back over to Finland to play? He's definitely going to get a look. but they're building things the right way there. They're getting, like they have cap space, but they don't want to bring in bad contracts. They've already said that, but they're gonna, it all depends on what Carey Price does and everything. I think Detroit and Montreal are in better positions than Chicago.
And I guess it's kind of a tag-along question. We're looking now this coming year will be 30 years if a Canadian team doesn't win a Stanley Cup. Or is somebody ever going to win a Stanley Cup in Canada again? Calgary obviously is the most likely candidate at the moment. Is there any, it is shocking to me when I saw this stat when we were talking about during these Stanley Cup playoffs. I was shocked that it had been 30 years. It really doesn't seem like that, and it's got to shock the Canadians, I'm sure. I mean, as a whole, not just the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that 30 years, but I mean, more teams, different factors. It's hard to get players to go north of the border because a lot of teams on their no trade clause put the 7 Canadian teams because they don't want to go north of the border for some reason.
Yeah.
Is it the pressure of playing in the city? Is it, the scrutiny? Is it the media? There's so many factors. Yeah, financial reasons.
Yeah.
Too, you're losing money. But look, eventually, Winnipeg got close. Calgary is a team that's there. Edmonton could get close. I think 2 teams in Alberta have the best chance right now. Outside, everybody says Toronto, but I'm not sold on it. But you never know. I mean, somebody's got to go on a run and make it happen. For them to win another Stanley Cup north of the border, which, it'd be great to see. But, it's not like Canadian players aren't winning it. Like, as everybody said, there are Canadian players on these teams. But, yeah, the Canadian-based team has not won a Stanley Cup since 1993. It's crazy to think that. But, yeah, so many factors get involved in that. Like we said, financials, do they want to – it's hard to play there, so –
I think this might be a little bit overkill, actually, Alan. I don't think they're going to put a team in Mexico, first of all. But
no, I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't think they would. I think a Canadian team would still win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
beforehand.
You'll see an NFL team in Mexico before an NHL team. That's for sure.
Probably,
right?
I wouldn't doubt it.
What else? Anything else you want to touch on? Are you actually going on vacation, first of all? Or was that just kind of where your mind was when we were talking yesterday?
That was kind of where my mind was, but I definitely am trying to go on vacation again sometime down the road. But yes, no, that was where my mind was because it's like, okay, it's time to get into the chill part of the off season and not have to worry about stuff. But hey, this is what happens. It's the NHL. It's like every sport now. It's year round for some reason.
Is there anything else you wanted to bring us up to speed with today?
Nope, that's it.
Listen, is your article going to continue through the summer though, even though it is down months, or do you have less sporadic articles now?
Less sporadic stuff. We'll see. I'll try to do one a week, maybe. Yeah. We'll see how much comes out.
Well, guys, check out Full Press Hockey, and if you haven't got there, read some of Jim's stuff. Even some of the previous stuff he's had up is really good reading. And check out their I'm assuming your Last Word on Hockey show is probably going to take a hiatus for a little bit too.
A little bit of a hiatus. Yes, we're on hiatus.
Yep, so. They're all going to be resting. All the hockey guys are going to be resting and get ready for the. There's not much of a downtime anymore, right? It's like a couple of months.
I'm making sure there's downtime. I'm gonna make sure there's downtime.
God bless you. All right. Well, we'll miss your nightly recaps. I can't even say it. What's your little tagline there at the beginning?
It's the nightcap recap.
It's just so hard for me to say over and over again. It seems easy, but I can never get it right in my head.
Hey,
Jim,
the nightcap recap that don't stop. That when breaking news happens and it's important.
Yep.
I'll let you know about it.
You never know when you're going to see Jim Biringer pop up live. I can tell you that right now. So
that's
very good.
Oh,
great stuff as always, Jim. We'll certainly get you in as it's warranted. I'll keep checking in with you, and we'll certainly start getting you on the College Football Huddle as well.
Yeah, soon enough.
Games are only a little more than a month away. We got real games.
Week 0, right?
Week 0. Stop talking about realignment and everything else. It's nonsense. So we'll talk more about that. We'll have you on there soon too.
Sounds good.
All right, Jim. Have a great Sunday.
You too. Enjoy the day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The great Jim Biringer from The Last Word on Hockey on madradio.com. Is it Mad Radio? Mad Radio Network and fullpresshockey.com. So thanks for him to coming in. Our hockey conversations will be a little more sporadic going forward. But we'll still have him on when it's warranted. I probably weren't going to have him on today if this blockbuster didn't come down. But Jim's very knowledgeable in other sports, and if he wants to come in and talk other stuff, we'll certainly do that, especially like we have him on the College Football Huddle. I want to say good morning. A couple of people popped in. Rick, I didn't get to say a proper hello. If you guys didn't get this, I made a joke about our Perth upbringing, and Rick is going to be visiting the Boxing Hall of Fame. Jack Hirsch, Hall of Fame boxing writer Jack Hirsch from the Mac and Jack Show, told him you could spend more time if you actually read all the plaques. And I made a probably bad joke of bring somebody with you, Rick. But good morning to you, Rick. I know you took it in the spirit that it was intended. Good morning to Bill Pulver. Good to have you. And Kenny, good morning to you. Alan's talking about, we talked about that, right? 93, the year of your birth. Just remember, Alan, and you're pretty good about this. Sports didn't start the year you were born, all right? And you're good about this, better than some others for sure. That's a year after your last kid. Well, you're old, Kenny. Can't help it. A lost generation of Canadian fans. That's very funny. That's a great point. So that's 30 years ago. Alan's 30. A lot of people born in Canada, obviously, who don't know the rich history of Canadian hockey. I mean, the original 6. 2, who were the, I guess 2 of them were in Canada. I'm trying to think now. I think it was 2 were in Canada, right? So anyway, and listen, the Canadians and even the Maple Leafs a little bit have some rich history. So anyway, and we all know about Edmonton's run. It's a shame to see what's happened there. So we'll move on to some baseball talk because we've got a lot to talk about in baseball today. We'll talk some about the All-Star game. I'm not a big fan. To me, and I guess I'll talk about it real quick right now. I did a vlog on it the other day. Real quick before I jump into, and we might be early for Drew to be with us if he's going to be with us because he's probably thinking hockey will go till 9:35. But we can get his take later, and I'll only talk for a few minutes on this. You guys can get some comments in if you want, but we're going to talk about it again with Mark Mancini at 10:30 because he was actually there. He seemed to enjoy his experience. Me, I don't understand why we're even playing these games. Pick a team. It's just like all-star games. Stop playing them. Pick a team. Nobody goes out there and they care. Guys are mic'd up. And yeah, as a Yankee fan, I thought it was kind of cool to see Nestor and Trevino mic'd up and Nestor calling his pitches. But it's all gimmick. Nobody cares about the game. I was on a show the other day and somebody brought up, or I'm sorry, I wasn't on. I was watching the Reverend Tom Bryce's show on Friday night on SportsWire with his roundtable, and they were talking. Somebody brought up John Gonzalez actually for the sports authorities. Brought up Pete Rose running over Ray Fosse. Those guys cared about winning. National League dominated when I was growing up. 19 out of 20 games they won, I think, at one point. And there's Drew. Good morning, Drew. We'll bring your come up in a second. And you know what? The game's now the game result doesn't matter. I mean, it was a colossal bore. You'd see pitchers pitch more than an inning years ago. You didn't get to see guys. The only reason I guess the reason I probably loved it because when I was a kid, I saw 20 Yankee games, so I was lucky a year on TV. No Sports Center, no internet. Till Al Gore invented it. Thank you, Al Gore. Sarcasm. Just an FYI. But I didn't get to see the Henry Aarons and the Bobby Bonds and the great players in the National League or even in the American League. The Rod Carews, the Nolan Ryans, Joe Morgans. I didn't get to see them unless it was in the All-Star game. So it was an event then. Now it's just a colossal bore. So let me catch you up with a couple comments here, and that's just all I want to chat about. If you guys got a little, and you can watch my vlog too from Friday. I went into this a lot. because it's all All-Star games. They're just useless to watch. Couldn't care less about the All-Star game or the home run derby. I agree. You know what? I had a little bit of interest in the home run derby, I guess, just so that we had something to talk about on the Started Up show in the morning. But, I wanted to see if Pete Alonso could get 3 in a row, and that's all I had. Thing takes too long, first of all. They could do this in a lot less time. So I agree, Drew. And good morning to you. Kenny says, when I was younger, only the Canadians would win the championship. Good point about the hockey. Oh, and by the way, to my point about Allen and knowing about sports that did not that sports didn't start when the year he was born or the year he started following it, like so many young people today. I don't mean to offend you, but if I do, I do, because I guess I don't care about those things. Happens when you're never offended by anything. You don't care if you offend other people, I guess. I don't do it on purpose. But that's good to know. So let's move on here to some other comments. Alan says, there's Drew. Good to have you on, Drew. As always, I thought you might miss a little bit of it because I know you tried to jump in for the baseball, which is going to be I think we'll spend most of our time on baseball. We'll get into NFL a little bit, potentially, but we'll see how that goes. It's a show, and it always has been. Again, more money for the owners. Agreed. And what it is basically a place for the TV networks to advertise their new shows, to put more uniforms and wearables out there for people to buy, because we can't even have the traditional wear your own uniform. You've got to have this. By the way, how awful. This is 2 years in a row that I can remember. And maybe there was the same. I'm not sure. I'm sure they didn't have the same because they can sell another jersey. Those jerseys the American League were wearing were just atrocious. Oh, gosh. My God. Add some color. Drew's got was entertaining reading about Soto showing what people should trade for. We'll get into that. We'll get into some of that, too, today, Drew, for sure, as we go forward here. I want to talk a little bit about the second half and the Soto issue, and then whether he got traded at the trade deadline this year. Remember, he doesn't need to get traded this year. Although, if you got him this year, he'd be eligible for 3 postseasons because he's not eligible for free agency for 2.5 years, guys. So we'll talk more about that for sure. What did I miss here? Alan, only matters for the World Series. No, I don't think they're doing that anymore, Alan, by the way. And somebody can correct me, but I think they did away with that. And that was stupid too, by the way, because the game would come down by the time the game would come down to the innings that matter. You got a bunch of guys who aren't even involved in pennant races in the game, and they're going to decide who had the home field advantage in the World Series. And you're better off just rotating than doing something stupid like that. How about just giving it to the team with the best record? But I think they did away with it, Alan. We were outside playing baseball instead of watching. Yeah, well, when it got dark, we had to come in, Kenny, for the most part. And we had some lights, actually. We would play up against this, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a barn, but it was a garage / whatever we had in the backyard behind the restaurant. My parents, my mother, my stepdad ran, and God, we played for hours. That's all we would do all day, right? I did have a TV. I only had 3 channels on it, sometimes 2, but I did have a TV. Alan does his research and read history, especially on teams I follow, and that's very good, Alan. I'm glad you do that. Again, one of my issues is with the younger generation, and I hate to lump them all together because it isn't everybody, but many of them, when I go into some of the groups, and there are people that comment on the show, and I post it to these groups, and geez, I think, look at some of the best of all time lists you see today. It's like baseball started in 1990. Yikes. Let's see what we got. Let me, I'm going to change my banner here quick, and then I'll get back to your comments. I know Drew's got something there. Let me try. Let's go to, let's just go to the second half outlook, but we'll talk about a couple things here along with this. I know we had a couple more comments, so let me get to those. Drew says, you know what? And this is something of a record. The record was 36, and I believe it was back in the 1800s for sure. The modern day record, I can't remember now what I heard the other day, whether it reached this or not. Drew, maybe you remember, but 28. I have no. Nothing makes me happier than to see the Red Sox get 28 runs scored on them. That's all I can say, especially with the Yankees struggling a little bit. Like I knew the Washington Rangers the Washington Rangers. Jesus. I knew the Rangers came from Washington in the 70s, if memory serves. They absolutely did. And actually, the great Ted Williams was the manager of the team at the time they were in Washington. And I believe their first season in Texas. So, by the way, it was the Washington Senators that were the Texas Rangers were the second iteration of the Washington Senators. Originally, they were the Minnesota Twins, just to give you a little even more history background. Rangers still have the most runs in a game, 30. Oh, that's the team I was thinking of, I guess. And that was back in the 90s, if I remember right. The Rangers had some really powerful lineups back then. They couldn't get by the Yankees in the playoffs, if I remember right. So, second half of the season, and just some news and notes, and we can look at the power rankings if you guys want. I just want to go through. I'm going to go through I want your guys' opinion on where we're at. When I look at some of the teams that played really well in the first half. Let's start with the Yankees. I always start with the Yankees, and we'll start with the Yankees and Mets. Because Carlos and I talked about this a lot Friday, but we'll get into it a little more here because I know a lot of you aren't able to participate in that show. The Yankees' best record in baseball still, not by as much as it was, because the Dodgers now have pulled within 2 games, and the Astros are still lurking back there, 2 games as well behind. And the Yankees have a serious Astro problem. They lost last night to Baltimore, 3-0 lead with Garrett Cole on the mound. You got to win that game. You just have to win that game. There's no way you lose that game to the Orioles. And the Orioles are playing much better baseball. But the Yankees continue. We talk about the Astro problem. The Yankees haven't played great in the last 20 games. That's not to take away how well they've played, but the problems still linger. Right? I can't count on Matt Carpenter, as great as he's been, continuing that run in the second half. I'm not holding my breath. And you can tell me all you want about, hey, Joey Gallo looked good the other night against the Orioles. He had a great night. Still hitting 170 or worse. Matt Carpenter's got almost as good a numbers as Joey Gallo in a third of the at-bats. Yankees have to improve that position. And now they need help in the bullpen because Michael King's out probably definitely. I don't remember the results of this. I'm sure what I saw the other night was not pretty, and I think he's gone for the year. Chapman's got his struggles. So right now, Loaizaga struggled even before he got hurt, and since he came back, he's a key to that bullpen. So the Yankees have got to make some moves here. Brian Cashman. Look, Yankees are making a postseason. Yankees are winning the Eastern Division. This isn't the sky is falling, but you have to find a way to beat the Astros. And the Yankees have not figured this out yet. Now, they did last year in the playoffs. They won the season series against the Astros last year in the regular season, but got beat in the playoffs. All that matters is the playoffs for the Yankees right now. You could disagree with me, but I don't care if the Yankees win 116 games and set a record. If they don't win a World Series, this is a failure. Because it's been 13 years since they've been in a World Series. They did win it. Oh, let's see what we got here. 2000s. That's funny. I thought it was the 90s. Okay. Carpenter revamped his swing last year and worked on many scientific methods and coaches, so his string it may be maintainable. He's not a young guy, and and maybe I overstated the fact I didn't want to see him in the outfield anymore because he's played better. I mean, he played a decent left field. Just one night that I saw him just make some awful boneheaded plays in right field. He's been okay in the outfield. And his bat's going to be in the lineup more often than not, as long as he continues to hit. And we cannot sit here, because I can't sit here and watch Joey Gallo swing and miss all night long. So you're right, Drew. I mean, he's one of the great stories of this season. Well, those were pretty good offensive players, by the way. Soto's a good player, but why would a team put up hopes on one man? Yankees and Mets don't need him. I don't necessarily disagree. I think Soto's probably going to end up on the West Coast, most likely, in my mind. And by the way, it may not happen for a while. Because the Ranger, or the Nationals have said they're going to trade him. Doesn't mean they're going to trade him at this deadline. They could trade him in the offseason. They could trade him next deadline. They're going to look for the maximum, and it's going to cost a lot. If you want him, especially if you want him now, because, again, you've got him for 3 postseasons, even if Boros takes him to free agency, which I'd be shocked if he didn't. I'm the Yankees or I'm the Mets. I don't make a trade without having a contract because it's going to cost most of your minor league system and a player. Mets want him, they better start talking about Pete Alonso. And Alvarez, I think, is the catching prospect. Drew might be able to help me there. Plus, I don't know, the Mets have the prospects to really make this move. Yankees do, but doesn't get made without Velope and Peraza and maybe Dominguez and maybe Gleyber Torres. And by the way, going back to the Yankees, we'll talk much more about Soto in second half. We can just wing it here. Stream of consciousness here. This is second half baseball, so it can be about the trade deadline. It could be about teams and their chances here in the second half. We can talk about Soto. We can lump this all together and talk about it for as long as we need to, guys. And baseball and maybe a little bit of the NFL is really all I care about getting into. If I'm the Yankees, I'm a Yankee fan, and I watched Aaron Judge leave town and they bring Juan Soto in here, I don't care about the age difference. I really don't. I'm tired of the Yankees not taking care of their own and falling in love with a shiny thing over here. You haven't watched Aaron Judge play this year, or if you have watched him play this year, and you still don't understand the magnitude of the great player this guy is, and the magnitude of his presence in New York, and the magnitude of what it would mean to baseball and the Yankees for him to play his entire career in New York, you don't understand how this sport works. It's Hall of Fame weekend, which I want to get into a little bit as well, by the way, before we wrap up baseball today for sure. I want to talk a little bit about not right now, but I want to talk a little bit about the inductees and some of my thoughts and your thoughts on that. So again, I don't disagree with you, Kenny, necessarily. If I find a way to get him, cheaply, whatever. Alan gets like a dog with a bone, man, when I give him a topic. Jared Salamanca and Ramon Vasquez, we each had 3-run home runs, and they had 26 more runs to score. Yanks 18-1. What does that mean? Help me out here. Help me out, Billy. I think I said good morning to you, Billy. If I didn't, I apologize. Someone from the Major League Bet. Look, you can predict everywhere. Alan, you said something to me about, the Rangers were in play because of a couple players were also Burrow's contract clients. Well, you probably half the league or more has that type of coincidence. Braves, look at it, they could be in play. Everybody's going to be in play here. Probably some of the teams you don't even think about could be in play here. Washington's asking for 4 major league. And they could be prospects, by the way, right? Sure, they don't have to be Major League Baseball or in Major League Baseball now. So I say the Yankees are probably a team that could pay the price. With their 2 infielders, Dominguez is probably not ready to play in the majors now, but he's going to be soon, by the way. But I don't make this trade. If I'm the Yankees, I don't give up the entire future of my organization for Soto. He's a great player, wonderful player, 22 years old, right? 22, I think. He's not a better player in baseball right now in my mind than Soto, but I don't give up this price. So again, that price is now. The further this goes, that price will go down because you don't have him locked up for as long. If for some reason they didn't trade him for the next year and a half, they're not getting that haul. That's why he's likely going to get traded either at this deadline or the offseason, because that's how they're going to maximize what they get for him. Good morning, Carlos Alvarez. That's what I thought. Nobody said it was up to fans, Carlos, but it's, God, that's part of the problem, is that Major League Baseball and Major League Baseball teams don't care about their fans. Fans want to win. Yankees are better with Judge and the kids. You love the kids. You want the kids playing now, and they can't be thrown into the middle of a pennant race. You love these kids, but you want to see them get traded for Soto? Judge wants the Yankees. Judge wants what Yankees don't want to conform to. Conform to. I think you mean conform to. Whatever. You got to overpay. You had a chance to sign this guy in the offseason, and you didn't do it if you're the Yankees. You could have got this deal done for less than Mike Trout money, guaranteed. Now you're going to pay more than Mike Trout money. Take a look what Soto's asking for and just lower the years to 8. I would take Aaron Judge in a heartbeat. I don't get why you'd get rid of him at all. It's because this is the Yankee way. We don't pay our guys. We'd rather pay A-Rod, and we'd rather pay Stanton. We'd rather pay Soto, and we let the Judges and the Andy Pettis, and I can go on and on. Guys that just let walk away because they love other players first. Good. Give him 6+ years. Give him 8 years. That's what he wants, is 8 years. I'm okay with that. The Yankees, not the Kansas City Royals. If I got to eat money at the back end of that contract, I don't care, because I've made more money in the first in peripherals, ticket sales. I can charge more for my TV rights, local TV rights, commercials. Remember, the Yankees own their own network, by the way. And wearables. He's not Babe Ruth. No, again, nobody is. By the way, all these guys should thank Babe Ruth, by the way. I'd love to take a poll of Major League Baseball players. How many are there? 600 and some, almost 700 maybe. Maybe even extend to the major leagues and ask them, number one, who's Babe Ruth? And number two, what did he mean to the game of baseball? Because the answer is, to the second part of that, is the guy who made it responsible for you guys to be able to make all the money that you're making today. Because without Babe Ruth, there is no these things. Baseball might not even exist as we know it today, because Babe Ruth saved baseball after the 1919 Black Sox scandal. Pay a little attention to history, because it does matter. And they should all thank they should hit their knees and thank the Babe Ruths of the world for the money they make right now. He's a very legit hitter. Nobody's taking away from Juan Soto here. Juan Soto will be on a team and be a very good baseball player for maybe 20 more years. Drew had something here. Where are you? He could, and let's hope he gets to him in a different way. 23? Okay. 23. How many World Series did Bonds win? Good question. It's not all about numbers. I keep saying that. Numbers are important in baseball, historically speaking. For years, baseball was known, there were certain numbers just were etched in the game. 715, 714, 715, 61, 60, 3,000, 500. You'd say those numbers to people, they'd know what you were talking about. They aren't as important today, but it isn't just numbers. You know, I had this discussion about quarterbacks. None. And Barry Bonds had to cheat to break the home run record. Barry Bonds is one of the worst examples. We'll talk maybe more about this when we talk about the Hall of Fame, because Barry Bonds belongs in the Hall of Fame, by the way, because he was a Hall of Fame player before he started juicing. And it's sad that he had to do that to get that number. And in my mind, guess what? 61 is still the number for single season, and 715 is still the overall record. That's always going to be my mind. At the same time, Barry Bonds needs to be in the Hall of Fame, which I'll talk about maybe when we get to that topic a little bit. Plus, as an agent, that's an agent thing more than a Yankee thing. That's wrong. No, that's not true. Not true at all. If you're talking about the Aaron Judge thing, maybe. But let's not forget, the Yankees and now the Nationals, they all play the same game. They all release what the player turned down so that they can turn public or try to turn public opinion against that player. Didn't work with the Yankees, by the way. Helps that Judge is having a season for the ages. But I can tell you, being a Yankee fan for the last, 55 years of my life, when I started to be able to understand what I was watching, this is the way the Yankees have operated forever. This isn't about agents. Not every time. I'm not saying there aren't times it is. It depends on the context you're talking about there, Carlos. Yes, the Yankees are certainly one of the most 5 profitable teams in sports, which is why you can afford to give Aaron Judge whatever he wants. You pay youth and long-term and not injured or older players to longer contracts. No. So you should just underpay them until they're 30 or 31 years old like Judge and then not reward them. That's the way it works in baseball. And that's why players want to become free agents sooner. And that was part of the lockout issue and not signing a new agreement was they wanted the ability to hit the free market or arbitration sooner. And why do you pay youth? Pay a guy in his prime while you know what you're getting from him. I'm not disagreeing that I don't want to give, a 35-year-old guy a long-term contract. But why would I pay a guy 20 years? And again, Soto's probably the exception here because I think you can project what he will do over long term, barring an injury. But a lot of guys, you don't get locked up for $40 million a year early in their career. Because the players want it both ways. I'd love to hear your opinions on this. That's the problem. The players and the agents, they want it both ways. They want a long-term contract. Soto's a good example. And again, God bless them. I want guys to get whatever they can get. Because if somebody's willing to pay you, you're worth the money. Doesn't mean you're going to earn it, but you're worth the money. Because somebody wants to give it to you. But you can't have it both ways. You can't say, I want a long-term contract for $500 million or whatever, 15 years, $500 million, just throw a number out there. But I also want opt-outs here, and here. Because you know damn well whatever contract you sign now for 15 years is going to be obsolete in 2 or 3 years. And now you feel like you're one of the most underplayed guys in baseball. You can't have it both ways. You want the long-term security of that long-term deal, or you want a shorter deal with the ability to be a free agent again. That's the way it should work. You don't get both. Well, yeah, he's also 38 years old, right? I mean, come on. Judges aim it. You just don't. You're never going to understand this topic, Carlos. Never. And you should. Because, you've got a background in marketing. And for you not to understand what Aaron Judge is worth to the New York Yankees, besides what he brings to the field, is it's stupefying to me. It really is. What do you got here? Rangers have been to more World Series than Bonds. Good point. Giants in 03. By the way, they should have won that game in 03, or that series in 03. But again, one World Series in his career. Marlins have won more World Series, and they've won more World Series than Barry Bonds. Drew, exactly. One player does not make a successful team, right? And that's what you got to. It's in every sport right now. And again, you shouldn't say no. I don't want it. Well, you can't even say no. You don't want it. If you guys remember back, or I'll take less money. Well, you can do it when you're in a. If you're a free agent, you can take less money to help the team, renegotiate contracts down. Happens all the time in football. Tom Brady did it forever. But if you remember when A-Rod came to the Yankees, A-Rod was originally traded to the Red Sox and had made an agreement to restructure his contract. And the Players Association said, no, you're not, because of the precedent you're setting. Unless you're Bobby Bonilla. Jack Hirsch brought up a good point on the Mac and Jack show this morning. Why not set up an annuity for Aaron Judge? Whatever. If I'm the Yankees, I sign him to what he wants, and if I got to give him $2 million a year for the rest of his life, I'll do that too. Not that he's going to need it after this contract. Oh, just so frustrating. Yeah, and how good is that for the sport? That's not good for the sport. Yeah, it unbalances the players and also leads to unbalanced teams, Carlos. Players associations, again, I'm not a union man, and I never will be. You should earn what you get, and you're worth what you get. But not because you got to. Unions in general just protect the weaker. The strong will do very well on their own without a union. The lollygaggers are the ones that are protected by the unions. Now, I'm not saying they don't help. I don't care what situation you're talking about. Judge's team mucked this. The Yankees mucked this up. End of story. Yankees mucked this up. If you want to blame both sides, fine. But do not absolve the Yankees. Because I've watched these situations play out for decades. And people say, well, this isn't George's team anymore. What do you got, Drew? Switching gears. Thank you. Let's get off that topic. I'm tired of talking about it. I don't think it's a coincidence. Baltimore quick turnaround. Jives with Rauschman being called up. Agreed. I mean, look at a catcher, especially this is a young pitching staff for the most part for the Orioles. There's some veterans there. But a catcher who can come up and really take command and help these kids along is very important. And that's why it's also going to be difficult. And also, I think he pitched with a bunch of played with a bunch of these kids in the minors. It's different. But it's different than saying, let's take the Mets, for example, and all the talk about them trading for Contreras from the Cubs. If you're trading him for his bat and maybe be a DH, and the Yankees, I don't know what they're doing over there with the Mets. The kid they traded for the Pirates, I thought that the relief pitcher that the Mets traded was more valuable than what they're going to get out of this kid who cannot do anything but DH. And he looked like me in a baseball uniform or worse. But anyway, bringing in Contreras is problematic when you're trying to mesh him with a veteran pitching staff in the middle of a season. So good point, Drew. And kind of back to what we were talking about as far as second half prospects, it's going to be very interesting now to see what the Orioles do at the deadline, because they were talked about as being one of the bigger sellers in trading a lot of guys, including Trey Mancini, and even Mullen had come up. Cedric Mullins, but I don't know that they're going to make any moves. They could be a buyer now. They're only 3.5 games out of the wild card. They've cooled off a bit since their hot streak. They won 10 in a row, but look at they've split the last 2 games with the Yankees. I think the confidence level on this team is high. We've talked about it a lot on other shows, the scrappiness of this team. I really thought Brandon Hyde was going to be in big trouble early, maybe one of the first major league managers to get fired. And he's done a great job with this young team. Great job. It's a matter of what they do. So that's a good call for you, Drew. And I'd love to hear your comments about the thoughts of, while this was a good thing for this team, Rauschman getting called up and helping that staff. I still think it could be problematic to bring a veteran in with no experience, with a veteran pitching staff like the Mets and Contreras. It could play out the other way. Very hard to do that. Yes, Judge does want to be a Yankee, but he's not going to do it with a discount. I'm getting off that topic now, Carlos. Chinaris is a great example to be with, too. Okay. He isn't a great player, but a good baseball player and a great baseball mind. Well, again, I talk about this a lot. It's not just about your ability. It's about there's a lot of intangibles in baseball that can keep you in the game and around the game for a long, long time. That's a good point. That's why Jonah Helm is always catching on the days Perez pitches. Well, yeah, and the Yankees and other teams have had guys have had personal catchers longer than you think. That's not a new thing. They just jive. If you can go back to Tim McCarver and Steve Carlton. Steve Carlton really loved pitching to McCarver. McCarver was a catcher with the Cardinals when Carlton came up. Carlton went to the Phillies, and they eventually brought in McCarver, and McCarver ended up catching him there. So that's one of the early instances that I remember. There could have been others, and I'm sure there have been through history. That's one that leaps directly to mind. What do you got here, Drew? Epler's philosophy was relievers are more abundant to replace the kid. I don't disagree there. I mean, he didn't have a big body of work. I mean, he'd only thrown, I don't know, 17 or 19 innings, but he'd been effective, very effective. They do need a left-handed bat, but I don't know if this guy, listen, it's a little different playing in Pittsburgh than it is playing in New York. And this guy can't help the team anywhere but DH. And I know their numbers with DH have been atrocious. Davis and Dom Smith. And I still don't think they're done because this kid can't hit lefties at all, right? So you still got to get a right-handed hitter. I still think Nelson Cruz is going to be a potential chip for this team. What's the rest of your comment here? And again, I apologize. I'm probably judging this kid by his cover and whatever. There's a lot of guys, including Babe Ruth, who were not, didn't look like they were tremendous athletes who did very well. Michael Perez is a good handler of pitchers. Boy, I'll tell you though, he's hitting about $150. I'm not sure that Met offense can handle a 150 bat in the lineup. Not sure. Speaking of Perez is on the bump today, I believe. Listen, talking about teams going forward, right? We'll jump over to your team a little bit, Alan. The Rangers, you could see, listen, here's the deal. And this has been fairly common. I shouldn't say common. It's happened more than a few times in the last decade where teams have taken guys who are on their contract year, like Perez. They could very easily move him. He's a free agent. If they love him that much, they just bring him back at the end of the year. Yankees did it with Chapman and the Cubs, and it worked out for everybody. The Cubs won a World Series. The Yankees got Gleyber Torres in the trade. They re-signed Chapman in the offseason. Still has not worked out for the Yankees. They haven't been in a World Series since they've had him. But still, this is a potential scenario the Rangers and fans should think about. Because you could get some really serviceable players, I think, for Perez is 31 years old, I think, too, right? This is his big chance to make big money. But this is also the Rangers' chance to capitalize on his season this year. And look at teams are going to be overpaying for everybody because there's going to be so many buyers. This is a place where the Rangers could sell, but also really improving himself and be able to get that guy back in the off season. And you'll still have him when you are maybe in better position to contend for a playoff spot next year or the year after that. Well, you're going to lose games. They still lead the division by what? What are they up now? Game and a half? I'm not even sure. I got to take a look here. Where are they at? Well, only a half game. Well, that's just going to be one of the big stories of the second half, right? And I'll get to the rest of these comments here in a second. I'll just throw this out there so we can start some conversation on this topic. The Mets, are they going to be able to hold off the Braves? I think they can hold off the Phillies. The Phillies are too up and down. They've played better baseball under Rob Thompson, and I'm glad to see that. But it's still a very flawed team. Their only chance really is probably going to be the wild card. The question is going to be whether the Mets can get improved enough to hold off the Braves, because the Braves are a much better overall team than the Mets on paper. Don't play the game on paper. You play it on the field. I don't give the manager, as much as I love Buck, I don't give him the big advantage in the dugout here when it comes to a battle of the wits here. But the Mets have had a very good season to this point. They've got some really good pieces. They need to improve. Maybe the front end of that bullpen. The back end's been great. Edwin Diaz has had a great year, and he hasn't had those hiccups like he had last year. Last I saw, and this could have changed maybe now after yesterday, I don't know the stat, but the other day, or at least at the All-Star break, they were 50-0 when leading after 8 innings, which is pretty good. How does he not provide more depth for the Mets, Carlos? They don't have a right-handed DH. They do not have a right-handed hitter that is doing anything that can perform from this. And they're not going to pay it. They wouldn't have to give up hardly anything to get Nelson Cruz. So you cannot tell me Nelson Cruz does not improve the Mets. He does. He's been down these types of stretches with teams before. He's a professional hitter who can still put the ball out of the ballpark and would be a great influence on the rest of this lineup. Got off to a bad start this year. His overall numbers aren't awesome, but he was off to a bad start. The Mets are not overpaying for Josh Bell. But Nelson Cruz is an improvement over anybody else you're going to play at DH, because the kid they just picked up, which I can't remember his name now, Vogel's son, Vogelberger, whatever his name is. Carl, I'm looking for Drew's comment so I can find it. Because listen, you know me and names. He can't hit left-handers. Mets cannot be done. The Mets are done. They're in big trouble, I think. We got a lot of comments here. Wow. It will not help their team, really. Carlos, I mean, all right, let me move on here. I missed some other comments up here. Okay, yeah, okay. I'm sure the guys that he'd be replacing are much better there. Let's look at. You want to just go look, because I'm not going to look them up. I guarantee you, Carlos, that Nelson Cruz's numbers compared to J.D. Davis, Dom Smith, who's not going to be a DH against lefties anyway. Anybody else you can name would be far superior. And they'd get him for a song. If you wanted to trade their future to get Josh Bell, they want to trade. They're going to demand, a lot more for Josh Bell than they are for Nelson Cruz. Perez versus Paul Blackburn today, both are star reps. Josh Bell actually is better. I agree. Josh Bell is better. Didn't say he wasn't. But you also have to weigh what you have to give up to get him. The fall off isn't going to be that much when you weigh in the price that they have to pay. I don't look at analytics that much. There's certain numbers that are fine. Well, you're wrong. Pretty simple statement. Guys, by the way, I'll give my disclaimer here. I don't for a minute when I say you're wrong, Carlos, think I have all the answers. I could very well be wrong. And I freely admit when I'm wrong. I was wrong about the Yankees this year, wasn't I? They want to extend him. Listen, I get it. But if I'm the Rangers, I go to Martin Perez and I say, listen, we can really get a couple of really good prospects for you. We're going to be highly involved in trying to bring you back in the offseason. Dangerous if you want them back. But it's a way to improve your team and keep the guy at the same time, because the Yankees, although they haven't won anything, certainly made out in the Chapman trade. And they tried to do the same thing with Andrew Miller. It didn't work out. Mets, Braves, Cardinals, Brewers will be the big division leader contest for the second half. I agree, Drew. Listen, the Mets and Braves, whether the Mets can hold the Braves off or not, I see no reason to think they're going to collapse like they have in the past. Not with Buck at the helm. Not with the way some of these guys have bought in. Not if they get a healthy DeGrom back. Not with Scherzer at the top of that rotation. Because, again, you got a stopper. You got a guy. You're not going to go on long losing streaks if you got DeGrom and Scherzer, or even one of them in the rotation. I mean, to just show you the importance, and unfortunately, the analogy isn't as strong as it should be because of the way starting pitchers are used today, but it still applies when you're talking about Scherzer because he pitches deep into games, right? Ron Guidry in 1978 when he went 25-5. I mean, some astronomical number of his wins came after Yankee losses. Certainly more than half. And that's where the value of that great pitcher at the top of your rotation matters. You don't go on long losing streaks. So I think they'll stay in it. Whether they can hold off the Braves is a different story. They're definitely going to be in the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. The Brewers, who, Drew, you know, I picked to win the World Series. That pick isn't looking great, but there's been other World Series winners who at this point in time that weren't looking all that good. The Washington Nationals not too long ago come to mind. They were under 500 probably at this point. I do think that'll be a battle in probably what is, both central divisions of baseball are probably going to have very good races for the title. And the Cardinals will probably stay in a wild card hunt too, obviously. They're going to be the most exciting division races, but they're also the most mediocre divisions as well. So I think those are places, you're right, we can concentrate on a little bit. Mets already had 2 players in trades, 3 more, and it will be the same concept as the Braves. Well, yes, if it's a big if. The Braves made some great moves last year to get Duvall and Soler and the rest of the names are escaping me. Jock Peterson, I think, was one of those guys. You can't expect every year to bring in journeyman players like those guys. And they are no better than journeyman players who played great down the stretch and really were the reason, or a big reason, that the Braves won the World Series. Came back and won the division and won the World Series. That's a roll of the dice, though, to be able to think you're going to bring in, again, a bunch of journeymen and they're going to play better than their career norm and lead you to the promised land. Billy Pulver. Mets have played less than 8 games. What? How does that happen? Have played 8 less games than who? That's not true. Is it? Mets have played 95 games, and the Braves have played 96. 8 less games than who? I mean, there could have been somebody who had some COVID delays early in the year or something, but I don't see anything that stands out. 94. Yeah, I'm not sure. Billy, did you and Rick Sherlock can speak up. Do you remember seeing Billy in math class at Perth? Just kidding, Billy. Maybe I'm looking at something wrong here. I'm not sure. And maybe you mean something else. I'm not positive. Carlos, depth as far as fielding on the bench. Okay, well, first you can't field from the bench. I know what you're talking about. You do need a bench to be able to. You do need a deep bench to be able to play. Well, not deep. You need a productive bench because these guys are not carrying. A lot of these guys are carrying 4 or 5, 3, 4, 5 guys. Now it's more than 3 because the pitchers have had to come down. Early in the year, it was ridiculous a few number of players they were carrying on the bench. But they don't carry that many bench players anymore because pitchers, these teams are all going with 12 and 13 pitchers because of the way the game is played. What do you got here, Alan? We're still in Texas. They brought up another young kid as an outfield bat as well. So between them 3, Helms, Torres, and again, it's a great young lineup. That's why I maybe add to that youth movement by moving Perez and retaining and go back and get him back. Well, I don't know if the Mets are going to go for a splash. They're going to go for more players like the ones they already got. They're not going to trade Alvarez. I'd be shocked. There's a guy, you talk about bringing up kids, Carlos, and it's difficult to bring up a kid like Alvarez to catch in the middle of the season. That's why I don't want the Yankees throwing their young guys in this pennant race because you could ruin them for a long time. Contreras might be in the mix, and that's a rental, right? Hell, they could be in the mix for Soto for all I know. Again, he could get traded this trade before the trade deadline, which is only a week away, right? Well, a week and a day. Michael Perez trade kills the Contreras. Drew, do you really think so? I mean, can you stop talking about Contreras because you got Michael Perez? Competent handler of pitchers. Can't hit a lick. I'm not sure that you can win with that anemic a bat in your lineup every day. The rest of the Mets lineup is not prolific enough to overcome that type of. Let me see something here. I mean, you already got also a bad stick at third base. To me, I might go out and improve third base. I mean, if you get another bat somewhere else in the lineup, because I can't have 2 guys not hit 3 guys. Again, when you get nothing out of your catcher, nothing out of your DH, which maybe you'll get more now because you traded for this kid from Pittsburgh. But tonight you face lefties, you're probably going to get nothing. And nothing out of your third baseman. I mean, what's Escobar's numbers? They're awful, aren't they? They're so bad I can't even find them. 219. Does have 11 homers and 40 RBIs, but, that's not great. Defense is okay. But I don't think they got what they thought they were going to get out of Escobar. That's it's an empty spot in your lineup. Not necessarily, Drew. They can flip Perez too. No, I just don't think that. I don't think that should take them out of the Contreras conversations for sure. No, if they get Contreras, Alvarez is not necessarily out the door unless that's the price for Contreras, right? Because listen, the Cubs are also talking about trading Contreras and bringing him back in free agency, so they may not want a catcher back. And I might trade Alvarez for Contreras. If I'm the Mets, I don't do that. And Contreras is a rental. There's no guarantee you're going to sign him, Carlos. So Alvarez is still an important player there. You've seen their draft. They got some solid young pitching. The draft's always a crapshoot. I can't really get too excited about the draft until I start to see these kids play real, meaningful, higher level baseball. So many kids. I mean, they get the rookie league, A league, high A league, and they all of a sudden they're struggling. So we'll see, and that includes everybody, including Holiday with the number one pick. We don't know what's going to happen. The Mets will not part. Yeah, that's what I say. They should not part with Alvarez. And Contreras does not have anything to do with Alvarez unless the Cubs are asking for him back, and then you don't make the trade. But again, you're going to have to give. They're not going to. Even if they get Contreras, they are not going to sign him to any long-term deal after this season. This would be a rental in my mind. Oh, you looked at the standings. Gotcha. No worries, Billy boy. AL Central will be a race too. And again, that's what we kind of talked about here a minute ago. Where are we? Twins, I did pick the Twins to make the playoffs, by the way, just an FYI, and they're holding a 2-game lead over the Guardians and 4 over the White Sox. Listen, I really thought there was a decent chance Tony La Russa was going to get kicked to the curb at the All-Star break, similar to what the Jays did to Montoyo. And by the way, they're playing much better baseball since that move. So sometimes it kickstarts a team, sometimes it doesn't. White Sox are certainly a team in need of a kickstart, though. But you're right. That it is a division of who cares, because the Twins probably aren't going to win. They'll probably end up they would end up in the wild card round. They'd get all the games at home, which gives them a chance to advance. But, I don't know. I know it gets tough, but I managed to do it. But that, it is. There's times where I get lost, as you see, because there'll be something totally out of context, and I've got to get caught up a little bit. But usually after a while, I try to do it. But thank you for that compliment, Alan. But I want to keep people involved, right? And everybody's interested in something different. So that's why we call it the Stream of Consciousness Show, because we're all over the place. And by the way, people love it. Escobar should be better. Who knows if the Mets put JD? They're not going to put JD, because JD Drew, first of all, is a downgrade defensively, and he can't hit. Now, I know you're going to tell me he hits better when he plays third base, but there's no guarantee that Davis is going to rebound with a bat. He's not a young guy. As long as the Mets don't trade for Gallo, they'll be fine. Alan gets his obligatory. Oh God, I think Drew's actually got a good one coming up here, because I wanted to get to this. Topic. Julio Rodriguez's effect on the Mariners has been marked as well. Yeah, the team hurt most by this All-Star break has been the Seattle Mariners. They went in with a 14-game win streak, I believe, and they've now lost 2 in a row. They gained some ground on the Astros. I think they'd gotten inside of double digits, and now they're back to 12 games behind. They'll make the playoffs most likely. This Mariners are a good team. It was one of the most underachieving teams in the first half until that last few weeks. Scott Service was another Service. Probably saying his name wrong. Was one of the guys in danger of being let go too. And sometimes hanging on and being patient pays off, and it has for these Mariners. And don't forget, this team, without Rodriguez and some others, won 90-plus games last year. And Kenny gets his obligatory cornhole reference in here. Listen. If cornhole becomes bigger than baseball, Kenny, this show will no longer exist. The two players should be Gallo and Cruz should be an independent ball. Yeah, listen. If Joey Gallo were playing up the road here for the Tri-City Valley Cats, I wouldn't go. And by the way, congratulations to Kumar, the pitcher from Vanderbilt, who was, I think, the number 3 pick in the draft, who's been pitching for the Frontier League Tri-Valley Valley Cats. Improved his draft lot. The Mets drafted him last year, I think at 8. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but he did improve his draft slot, his draft position 5 spots. Probably make a little bit of money on that jump. And, there are still some current injury concerns there to worry about, or arm words. Mangoes destroy baseball. I need some help there, Kenny. Mets lost 2 in a row. Yeah, I know. But again, you're not, especially if they get DeGrom back. And by the way, DeGrom struck out 10, I think, in 5 innings or something the other night. So probably the concern about his arm maybe was a little bit overrated or overinflated earlier this week. But we'll see. If he comes back and he's healthy, this team is going to be very, very tough. The Tigers youth minute. Now, again, we talked about disappointing teams. The Tigers are right there, and AJ Hinch may not survive this come the end of the season. This team was expected to make a jump this year. It has not paid off, and it's similar to the Royals as well. The Royals, I don't think were, quite in the same position as the Tigers. The Tigers finished last year very, very, very strong, and there was a lot of hope for that momentum carrying over this year, and it has not. Good call there, though, Drew. Alan's been getting messages from Mickey about the upcoming Rangers-Mariners series. Needless to say, we have a rivalry going. I would say, listen, this division in a couple of years will be pretty good. I think the Rangers are on the right path. I mean, they're starting to fade. They're fading badly right now, Alan. But as I said, you've got some good young pieces. I do think maybe bringing in Simeon and Seager when they did might have been a little too soon to bring those types of contracts in. But this team's on the right path, and they could be. I think next year will be a jump ahead for this team. Oh, Carlos. I go to a handful of games a year. I've only been up once so far this year, but I do go. I used to go quite a bit. I would go once a week sometimes. A few years back, it's a great night at the ballpark. It's a really cute little minor league ballpark, and it's a lot of fun. They'd have some good entertainment, and the competition is really good. Pete Incaviglia, if you remember from the Rangers, Alan, and also from the Phillies, is the manager there. He's his second year up there, and they've done very, very well. It's always been a very competitive team. They were affiliated with the Astros for 2 decades, and last year they dropped that affiliation. The Astros did. You said they should trade Judge and bring up younger guys because Gallo is better. No. That's certainly not accurate. Rucker. I said Kumar, right? Where did I get that? Rucker is what I was talking about. Sorry. Mets are not happy with the health issues with Rucker. Well, that's fine. And, I get that. You make a call, make a decision. Same thing as sometimes you draft guys. That's the thing with baseball, right? You're often drafting guys that don't even come out because they can go back to school. They're high school players and they decide to go to college. Rangers had to go from Miami to Oakland one day. Then after, again, everybody has travel issues. Texas will always fade in sports. Kenny, no lover of teams in Texas. Rocker had surgery. Where did I get Kumar? Is it Kumar Rocker? Maybe that's where I got it from. Rucker had surgery after the Mets turned him down last year. Well, I'll tell you what. I did go to a game where Rucker pitched, and he threw the ball very, very well. No signs of any arm problems. Again, competition is what it is, but he pitched very, very well. And no, like I said, no sign of arm issues. That doesn't mean there won't be any. That does not even mean that the Mets were wrong in avoiding signing him to a big contract. But my question would be, why did you pick him? If you had those great concerns, why did you pick him 8th? Much like the Packers in the playoff. It is too. I don't know. Alan, I've said before the quarterback. I'm probably not going to go there. Rocker signed with Texas. Yes, I think he signed right away, if I'm not mistaken, right? What else we got here I wanted to chat about? By the way, Justin Verlander, first pitcher in the major leagues at 13 wins last night. Great job out of Verlander to continue to be one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball after 2 major arm surgeries. Justin Verlander, just one of the great players to watch. I love to watch it. There's only a handful of guys I want to go pay money to go watch, or I stop and watch if they're pitching. Verlander's one, Scherzer's another, DeGrom, Cole. There could be a couple others, but they're my go-to guys. So congratulations to him. Oh, we got here. Got him for a steal, then draft the 11th prospect in the 4th round. That's a steal. Verlander, great call, Drew. I mean, again, not just 39 years old. I think Scherzer's 38, right? But he's gone through, again, 2 major arm surgeries and come back both times. Which, maybe that downtime has extended his career, and the surgery's certainly taken a big step and continues to get better every year and more effective in these in repairing the careers of these injured pitchers, especially. Yeah, well, again, if I'm the Mets, and you know what you're going to get with Boros. Don't get involved with him. Don't draft him at all. Verlander will fizz out. Well, you keep waiting for that, Carlos, because I've not seen any sign of it this year, not last year, because when I've watched Jason Verlander pitch for the Houston Astros in the playoffs, he's been better than he was in the regular season, which is why the Yankees have a Astro problem, because they can't score runs against elite pitchers. Is Scherzer 39? Okay. He has 3 years almost. I'm not sure what that's about, but anyway, what else did I want to chat about here? Verlander gets there. Oh, we never got to the Hall of Fame, guys. Let's take a quick look at the Hall of Fame inductees here, guys. And I know, and I'll change. I'll talk about this when Mark comes in if I need to. Did I thought I put a thing up here for this. Here we go. Today is the Hall of Fame. Oops, here it is. Hall of Fame inductees today. And here's the guys that are going in today. And you tell me, and again, I'm going to leave one name for last. Gil Hodges, voted in by the Veteran Committee. People have thought this has been an omission for many, many, many years. I'm not so sure. I mean, I have nothing against Gil Hodges. He was a great player, great manager. He's going in for his playing. Well, I guess when you get in with the veterans, it could be a case of the combination, right? But again, his numbers don't jump out at you. A very, very competent player. But if he's in the Hall of Fame, Don Mattingly's got to be in the Hall of Fame. Jim Cott. I love Jim Cott. I love watching him out there with no shirt, no sweatshirt when he was playing late in his career with the Yankees and the Phillies and the Cardinals. After a great career with the Twins and the White Sox in between. Really, really good pitcher. Not sure he's a Hall of Famer, though. Minnie Minoso. I mean, his biggest claim to fame is well, he's probably the first Cuban-born player to play in me. I'm not sure about that even. I shouldn't say that, but he played in 5 decades. It was a gimmick, but 5 decades. Tony Oliva. Again, if Tony Oliva's in the Hall of Fame, then I got to start thinking about guys like Mattingly and Munson. Tony Oliva had some great years, but was cut short with injuries. Thurman Munson had some great years, cut short by dying. Mattingly gets a bad back. And I would argue that Mattingly had years that were at least as good as Tony Oliva or better. Tony Oliva was a great hitter. I'm taking nothing away from him. Bud Fowler, I don't know that much about. But Buck O'Neil is long overdue. The last guy is David Ortiz. Okay. David Ortiz, a Hall of Famer, and I'm okay with that. But if you put in David Ortiz and Bonds and Clemens and Bagwell, well, Bagwell's in, I think. No, I'm not so sure. Maybe Bagwell. Everybody who's got any kind of steroid stain has to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think they should be anyway. Put them in there, warts and all. I did a vlog on this months ago, I think when they did the voting. And David Ortiz can't be in a Hall of Fame if these other guys are not. So congratulations to these guys, by the way. It's a great feat. It's a great weekend, too. If you've never been up to Cooperstown, first, if you've never been to Cooperstown, go. I don't care when you go, go. It's a quaint little town. And I'm going to, I'll get your comments here in a second. The Hall of Fame weekend is just a great time to be there. You see players all over town. You see them on the golf course up there at Otesaga. It's just a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Any weekend. You could run into players there at any weekend ever. By the way, speaking of that, I'm sure Pete Rose is there signing autographs somewhere this weekend. He's always there for the Hall of Fame events. And even though he's not in, he's always around town. And he'll also be on the field coming up soon as the Phillies honor their 1980 World Series champions. So Pete Rose with another chance to get on the field. And look, at Pete Rose also needs to be in the Hall of Fame. If you're going to put them in, I keep saying, put in Jules Shoeless Joe, put in Pete Rose, put in all these steroid guys, and just tell their story, the good and the bad. Okay. Yeah, there's no Spider Tack now, Carlos. Spider Tack's so overrated. I'm not even going to have a conversation about it. Yeah, because we don't want to give the pitchers any advantage, and don't get me going. We'll talk about that at a different time. Nice piece in today's Albany Time Union on Bud Fowler. I got to check that because Bud Fowler is not a name that I know that well as a pretty well-rounded baseball guy. I've got to check into Bud Fowler's information. I'll check that article out here after the show for sure, Drew. Thank you for that. Guys, have a great time. Kenny's off to the garden or something. There you go. Have a great day, Kenny. Thanks for stopping in. Put Rose in. He suffered enough. I don't care about his suffering at all, Alan. To be clear, when I say put Pete Rose in, Pete Rose did some awful crap. Pete Rose hurt the game of baseball, and I get it. Pete Rose was a great player. He holds some great distinctions in this sport, not the least of which having the all-time hit record. But he bet against his team playing baseball. But to me, put him in the Hall of Fame and tell the story, and you can color it any way you want. But you can't have a Hall of Fame without Pete Rose. And it's got nothing to do with his suffering. I could care less about Pete Rose's suffering. He's one horrible human being, but a great baseball player. You know, I'm having trouble getting excited. I got excited over this. I'll watch it because I think the venue is just tremendous. I can't get as excited as I did last year with the Yankees and the White Sox should be in this every year. How can the White Sox not be in this game every year? Right? Their players were the focal point of the movie. Well, not the focal point of the movie, but the players on the field of dreams in the movie. So I'm not as excited as I could be, mainly because it's the Cubs and Reds, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. In fact, I might start. It'll be corny. Drew, that's a very bad pun, but very funny at the same time. And I guess as I bring in Mark Mancini, welcome, Mark Mancini from Mancini Media. Before I let you say anything, go ahead. Just say what you want. I got a quick question for you before we jump into some of your hot takes. But go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you, this is the show that's sweeping the country, man. I'm always so blessed to be a part of it with these great listeners, and you moderating it, man. What more can I ask on a Sunday morning?
Oh, it's tough. I mean, we're getting puns now, like the Field of Dreams game is going to be corny. What are your thoughts? I mean, I love that. I love the Field of Dreams game last year. It was a great visual experience. And the fact that the White Sox were part of it was what made it special. And I thought the White Sox should be part of this every year. You could rotate the other teams, but I'm not as excited because I got to watch the Reds and Cubs, not least of which they stink. I mean, the visuals would be great, but I mean, do you have the same excitement for this game as you might have last year?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. The White Sox should be in it and kind of hosting it, kind of like they send the Jaguars to London every year. They should be one team that goes there, and they pretty much started. And I would take it one step further and throw the Pirates in at Williamsport. You know, as far as handling the Little League World Series, I think the Pirates should be part of that every year.
Yeah, are they playing that game this year? I haven't heard.
I don't know if they are, but that's an interesting.
Yeah, I feel like. Yeah, I think that was like a one-off thing that they only did one time. I don't remember it the last couple of years, but it could have been a COVID thing too. So we'll have to look into that because that was a fun event too.
Yeah, I got my Pirates Little League World Series when they had it there. I think they played the Cardinals.
Oh God, we're going to talk a little bit. And by the way, I don't know. This has become a thing now. I really feel bad that these guys think you have a face made for radio. I think your face is fine, Mark.
Well, I'll tell you, it's good looking. I got the thing moosed back. You know, it's 60 years old, man. Got to keep signing autographs, and you know.
I feel the same way. I take the word. I got the face made for radio, for crying out loud, on this show. I can tell you that.
You got it for TV too. These jealousy's human nature. Come on, listeners. But I got to tell you, I got to tell you, with the All-Star game, man,
I want to talk about your experience there because I had just to preface this, right? And I want to let you know that I've said a really hot take on my own on the All-Star game and how boring it was to watch. They shouldn't even play this game anymore. But I know you were there, and I want to know about your experience without, tainting you too much. And Mark and Rick will trade you a couple of Philly cheesesteaks.
Well, let me put it this way: in LA, to get around, you want to make sure you're pretty well situated. Not that I'm a cheap guy, but I said to myself, I'm going to stop at my local Dollar Tree, pick up some snacks, huge water, stop at the Italian restaurant, pick up a nice hoagie, go down there, park at Universal, hop on the Metro Rail, shoot it right into Union Station, get on the Dodger Express.
That sounds like a long ride. Jeez.
Well, no, but you know what? When you look at it, they want $60, $70 to park. I could have got in free if I got credentialed, but we didn't get credentialed because we didn't get it in fast enough. So thanks to Bill North, I'm sitting in a $1,300 seat between the home and the first base. One of the Astros throws up a ball in a crowd. I grab it. Everybody has a glove. I mean, you got to be an idiot if you have a glove at a ball game and you can't catch a ball, and a guy without a mitt catches a ball.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah,
that's not good.
So, the first thing I thought of is, my experiences with baseball. I've seen everything except now the World Series and catch a foul ball. But seeing a perfect game and going to an All-Star game, the only thing that'll come similar to this is me working for the Pittsburgh Pirates home and road games. But let me tell you, it is a Mardi Gras setting, Keith. When you look at these people, they're flashing their Royal jersey. Somebody's walking around with a Mariners hat. You got Toronto Blue Jay fans. And I said to myself, maybe I should just walk around, and I should have came in with a Stargell jersey. But these LA fans are so drunk and everything, they'll probably try to rip it off your back. So I showed up with a Dodger hat, borrowed my wife's, and then threw it back at her when I came here.
So your experience in person was worth it. I mean, if you had to pay for that ticket, would you feel the same way?
Oh, that'd be an expensive ticket to pay for. But,
right.
I think, I've been to a Super Bowl, and I remember going to one of those, and we got in for $20. I've been to an NBA championship, All-Star, NHL All-Star. And back then, these things were pretty cheap to get in. Now, let me tell you, it's a tourist trap all the way around. And if you tell me, if I have a choice to go to an All-Star or a World Series, I'm probably taking the All-Star because this is the first time it's been out here since 1980. That's 42 years, and that's Jackie Robinson's number.
That's interesting. Yeah, well, they did a nice job. That was one of the things on TV that I did enjoy. They did a nice tribute to Jackie Robinson, which I think you can see on
Ranger fans.
Ranger fans
No, the only Ranger fans are the ones elected to the All-Star game.
There you go. They did a nice tribute to Jackie Robinson, I thought. And by the way, an interesting note, too, the game was played on Rachel Robinson's 100th birthday, which was kind of cool as well. So happy birthday again to Rachel Robinson.
And they were serenaded Juan Soto, but I've always been for the players, and I'll continue to be for the players. But Juan Soto is one dummy. I mean, when they give you $350 million, I can see, okay, he wants to be the highest paid. Turn it down. They give you $440, and you turn this thing down. Man, you're getting some bad advice. I've got a Big Mac combo with the XM crew that this guy doesn't come anywhere close to what he was offered by the Washington Nationals.
Yeah, I don't know. He hits the ARPA. If he hits the open market and stays healthy, I mean, he's gambling right on himself. That's at the end.
Well, Aaron Judge is gambling on himself a half a year. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're under club control for 2.5,
that's a long time.
Don't be a DeMarcus Cousins.
No, and Burroughs has a history of taking his players all the way to free agency. Anybody who trades for Soto better take into consideration you're probably not going to sign him to a contract. He's probably going to hit free agency most likely. Now, with that said, if he gets traded at the deadline, this team would have him for 3 postseasons, theoretically, which is a big deal too. The cost for him in the trade, I think, will go down from. It'll probably hit its peak right now or in the off season, but after that, the trade value goes down because you're not going to have him long term. He becomes more and more of a rental.
Barry Bonds was one of the best players I ever saw play the game, and using flaxseed oil. And everybody says steroids and everything. I'm going to say flaxseed oil, but let me tell you, Juan Soto will never be a Barry Bonds. He's not a feared hitter. You need.
He's 23 years old, though, Mark.
Yeah, but when you look at someone that played,
what was Barry Bonds doing when he was 23 years old?
Well, Barry Bonds was still a feared. He was pretty much still a feared hitter. The only other feared hitter that played the game like Barry Bonds, and he got a little injury prone there, and I haven't seen a guy play it like this since Pete Rose is Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper is right there. Now you're starting to see the Mike Trouts go down. Might see the Angels held on to this guy a little too long, and they should have got a cachet of guys. They're trying to hold on to Ohtani. But let me tell everybody out there that bashes my Pittsburgh Pirates, we're a small market team, and we got a better record than the LA Angels, who are in the second biggest market.
That's not setting the bar terribly high, just in the FYI. But
Juan Soto, he's a good player, but you're going to need 2 guys plus him to turn a team around. You can't. That's why he wants to go to Toronto, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Padres. This guy goes to Cincinnati. This guy goes to Minnesota. This guy goes to Pittsburgh. He ain't going to win. He can't win in Washington.
No, I think he's going to be I think he'll be on the West Coast. I think he'll go to the Padres. Alan's asking where you think he'll end up eventually. I think the Padres are a very good possibility, or the Dodgers, but I think he ends up on the West Coast.
I think I got to agree with Alan. He's going to the Padres. I basically think that's where he's going. I think the Padres are loaded for bear. I think they're geared up. They're going to concede the division to the Dodgers, and then they're going to roll it in the playoffs. And when these playoffs, are the Giants atrocious or what? They're a dumpster fire.
Yeah, last year's looking more and more like an aberration. Back to Soto for 1 second before we move on from there. Do you see him getting traded at the trade deadline then? I think it'll be in the offseason myself, but what do you think?
Well, somebody's going to try to get him for the stretch run here. I think he'll go before the trading deadline. It's going to take a cachet of guys. The other interesting one is Ohtani. Ohtani could be moved too.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, Ohtani, I've heard that a couple times this week. The thing with Soto, though, is you got to give up so much right now. I think if you're a contender, it's one thing to give up not draft picks, but minor leaguers who are almost major league ready. That's one thing. But they're also going to want a guy who's probably in the major leagues today. And any of these contenders are going to have to weaken themselves at some position to bring in Soto. And it might be worth it or it might not be. But
well, this is going to be a Herschel Walker, Minnesota-Dallas trade type. The Nationals are going to get a cachet of guys.
Here's a good Drew did a quick comparison. Bonds at 23, 538 at bats, 97 runs. What's it? Oh, hold on. Am I doing this wrong? At bats, 97 runs, 35. Oh, I see. Second base, third base. Okay. 24 home runs, 283. I guess those were his. Oh, that's his year at 23. I get it. I'm going to say Soto's going to pass all those numbers, but.
See, I don't think so, because Soto doesn't remind me of a guy that strikes fear in your hearts when he comes up. I mean, you've seen baseball a lot. Barry Bonds is one of those guys. Dave Parker, Raul Mondesi, Roberto Clemente. These guys had the best arms in the game. You could probably throw Dwight Evans in there. But, when you look at baseball, you looked at the Oakland A's and everything. The new crop of guys, it doesn't show fear in me. I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, I'm taking Barry Bonds any day of the week, and even as Barry Bonds got older, he was still a feared hitter. He was walked the most times in Major League Baseball. Yeah,
well, that was because of the guys playing around him, and the size of his head. They couldn't find a way to find his strike zone, but. That's a different topic. Real quick, I got to give you. Carlos is actually giving your. Pirate team a pat on the back here for their drafting. They're doing well drafting, and they have for a couple of years. And I don't disagree. The thing is, with the Pirates, they've got to be able to keep these guys around and keep them happy. And they've done some of that, and they got to continue to grow. Look at the division is not going to be all that strong. So this team could make a leap at any point in time. They could jump to the top of the division.
Well, I'll tell you, they got a big matchup in Pittsburgh today. Alcantara's throwing against Keller. Keller's kind of turned it around here, but the loss of Vogelbach to the Mets was hurtful, because I liked him. He was a presence in that clubhouse and everything, but the 1-year deal, they had to move him. But the other big news out of Pittsburgh, switching gears here, Big Ben calling out the guys, and and everybody's in Pittsburgh saying, hey, Mancini, Big Ben, is selfish and everything. I go, hey, wait a minute. There's only been 2 quarterbacks in Pittsburgh, and Terry Bradshaw hated the city, and Big Ben is calling out his teammates. What's wrong with that? You can have the Terry handwritings, Jim Gilliams, Mark Malones, and all those guys.
So are you on the same page with Big Ben, that those players were coddled? And
I am. I'm with Big Ben on that one.
So is that a shot at Mike Tomlin?
Well, I've never been a big Mike Tomlin guy. You know that.
I do.
I think Mike Tomlin, if you look at Mike Tomlin, ever since Jacksonville came in there in that playoff game and railroaded him, beat him twice in the same year, Mike Tomlin's lost complete control of this team. I know he hasn't missed the playoffs, but let's look at what he's done in the last few years there. What has he actually done for the Pittsburgh Steelers to make him better?
Well, again, I don't know if it's all him. I think they stuck with Big Ben too long myself, and I don't know that that's Mike Tomlin's decision. But they also didn't do anything to upgrade that position so they could move on from Big Ben.
Well, we got a situation out here in LA where we got the governor wanting to know why USC and UCLA got out of the Pac-12. Well, come on, man. It's about money, and your conference is garbage.
Well, it's very simple, too. I mean, I read a couple of weeks ago, and I think I talked about it on my college football huddle show on Wednesday, that the athletic department is $101 million in debt, and they're going to increase their payout from the league to $65 million from less than 20 with the Pac-12. There's why they're going. It's all about money.
Yeah, but come on, Keith, can you actually sit there and watch an Arizona-Washington State game? I can't. And when you look at the rest of the country, and I've always said, if you're not going to play a top 10 schedule, then give me 2 conferences that are going to have great games each and every week. People are taking shots. I got a shot at me on XM saying, well, who cares about an Indiana and UCLA game? Well, why wouldn't you care? Indiana has a rich basketball tradition. And, when you look at some of these schools coming out here, I'd rather watch an Indiana UCLA than sit here and watch an Arizona UCLA game. Arizona hasn't been relevant in college football. And part of the country, after they watched Alabama and Clemson and Michigan and all this, you think they're sitting around and saying, honey, let's go home and watch Colorado play Washington?
Yeah, and they'll also have Notre Dame in that conference most likely before long too, because again, $65 or $70 million. Everybody says Notre Dame won't move because they got this great TV contract. It's worth $25 million. It's not chopped liver, but they can get $65 or $70 million from the Big Ten. That's where they're going.
Well, let me tell you, if Oregon and Utah lead the Pac-12, that whole conference will fall in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, well, I would put Washington in there as one of the linchpins as well. That's still a good football program and a draw. And I still think Oregon and Washington may go to the Big Ten at some point.
Yeah, I think Oregon's got the money. They got the Nike. I think he's going to try to tap that. I think Oregon will be the first one out the door. I don't know where the other two will fall in this, Utah and Washington, but I think Oregon will be the next domino.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you'll see the Big Ten start to make their way south in their next realignment.
Yeah.
The Miamis of the world, North Carolina, those are going to be the schools. They fit the profile as far as academics and, high-profile sports programs. So this is far from over for sure. And we'll talk more about that because we'll be having you in the college football huddle soon. What are your thoughts before I move on? Alan did have a question for your Steelers. Who do you see winning this? Whoops, that's not it. Who do you see winning? God darn it. Somebody put a comment up just as I was clicking. Who do you see being the quarterback, winning that quarterback? It'll be a competition, I do believe. Mitch Trubisky,
I kind of wanted Baker Mayfield in there. He didn't get it. I think when you look at it, I think Trubisky will get it. They'll protect him like they, did in Buffalo. But if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm letting Pinkett carry the clipboard for a year, learn the system like Elway did when he first came, and then he'll be ready to go. Don't throw this guy in. Let's not make him a Zach Wilson, a Trey Lance, or a Justin Fields. Do not put this guy in right away. Let him learn the system. I think Pittsburgh's got more brains than the Jets, Bears, and 49ers on this.
Yeah, I think certain guys you can put in there. Some guys you can't. And I think Pickett, they'd be better off not throwing him right in there. Now we're switching gears back to this. I've talked about this a lot on the football huddle. I'll get your opinion. I think, and I've said outside of the Big Ten and the SEC, I think there'll be some version of the Big 12, but I don't think the ACC survives. I don't think the Pac-12 survives. I really don't. When this is all cut.
The ACC, I still like.
Not if they lose Clemson and these teams to Virginia to the SEC and Miami and North Carolina to the Big Ten. They won't survive.
Well, then what you'll start to see, if you get 3-4 of these teams moving at once, then what you're going to have is you're going to have basically 3 conferences in football, maybe or 2.
You will, because the Big 12 is going to take the best of the Pac-12. The Big Ten and the SEC are going to have their pick of the teams, right? We already know that. And then the Big 12 most likely will be the other league that survives, and they're going to get the Wake Forests, and they're going to get the Utahs and whoever's left from Pac-12 and be a decent conference, but they'll still be a rung below the Big 12 and the SEC the way this is happening.
Well, not only that, look at the realignment of this thing. UCLA, USC is going to be heading back east all the time, and vice versa coming out here. So, when you look at the SEC, they'll have more of an advantage as far as travel and, looking at the other conference. And
to Carlos's point here, listen, the genie's out of the bottle. This mess is not getting fixed. It's not.
No. Well, look at baseball. Is that mess going to get fixed? Baseball's begun to decline before the pandemic. I've always said you need realignment in baseball.
Yeah, good point. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Look at the NCAA. We'll talk more about it, guys, on Wednesday, and we'll have Mark in soon on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah.
Mark, real quick before I let you go, the Hall of Fame inductions are today. I had a couple comments. Any thoughts on some of the inductees today? Gil Hodges finally gets in. Big Poppy's in. Jim Cott, Minnie Minosa, Tony Leva. Anything there? This is not an exciting class to me. It just isn't. And my big takeaway from this is if David Ortiz is in, then Bonds, Clemens, these guys have got to be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, and I know a good buddy, Bert Blyleven, is up there for the ceremony. Supporting Jim Cott. And Jim Cott, man, I liked him, man. What a good pitcher he was.
Great pitcher, but I think he's a Hall of Good. I don't. Very good. Hall of Very Good. Excuse me. For a long time.
But you're right. With David Ortiz, it's interesting that you're right. If they're going to put him in there, how come Clemens, Bonds, all these other guys aren't in there? And that's where I look at it. But it's quite interesting. There's a lot of guys that deserve to be in that hall that are on the outside looking in.
Yeah,
You tell me David Ortiz is better than Dave Parker?
That's a great point. Great point. Well, and Alan, we'll get into that debate as we get closer to football season. Alan has great issues with both of our takes on the NFL East, NFC East right now. So we'll talk about it. Mark, what do you got going on this week?
Tomorrow, we'll be doing the Pirate Podcast with Tarek Brock from Chicago. Catch him on Friday as the Phillies come into Pittsburgh. We got the Philadelphia WWDB show. We got to get you on there. You want to get on there Thursday?
I might be able to do that. Yeah, message me. As I keep forgetting. Yeah, I want to do that. And I friended Marianne on Facebook so I could kind of reach out, and I just haven't had the chance. It's been a very busy time.
Let me get in touch with Marianne. I'll definitely get back to you tomorrow.
Yeah, let me know. And Sal was bugging me to get on too. So yeah, I'll get on. I'm not no disrespect to you guys. I just been like burning candles at both ends here.
No, I understand that thing, and Sal will be propping up his Eagles and everything. I'll have to show up with my pirate hat to receive.
Thanks to Sal. Sal's become a great follower of this show and my shows too. So thank you to Sal.
I want to throw prayers out to Joey Buckholes, who suffered a heart attack last week. He's still in the hospital, but prayers and thoughts with him. I'm sure you know him too.
Yep, and we'll echo those sentiments for sure. So hopefully things turn out well there.
Yeah.
Mark, thanks for coming in today, and as always, it's been an interesting half hour or so. So thanks for your time, and you have a great Sunday, buddy.
I'll see you next week, my friend. I love you, man. The show is sweeping the country.
All right, talk to you soon. Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Mark Mancini from Mancini Media. Don't always agree with Mark, but he's always an interesting, has an interesting take on the world of sports and some other things. And we'll get on. He's got a lot going on, man. I'll tell you. He's got a lot. He's got a ton of podcasts that he produces, and he's on. And he's got a radio show, as he said, in Philadelphia, and he's got an XM radio show, and got a lot of stuff going on. So. And then I used to do the show with the left turn at Alcatraz guys every Thursday, but that got to be a little too much for me. And I love being with those guys. It's just, man, it was late and it was just hard. Anyway, guys, been a great day today with you guys. Thanks for tuning in as always. Didn't get a chance to play the video for the Dream Ride Experience, but check that out. The link on Facebook, on either my Facebook page or the Northeast Streaming Sports page. That's coming up here late in late in August, and it's a great event and a good fundraiser for a good cause. So please check that out. And our thoughts are out to Mac McGrath to get better too, guys. Just say a little. Prayer there too, so I'll throw that out there, and we'll talk to you guys all soon. Keith Engel for the Sunday Stream of Consciousness right here on TGI Sports Talk on Northeast Streaming Sports. Have a great day. Bye-bye.